live and direct from anywhere in the world. It's The Kelley Show with Dr. Kelley Mondesire.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. It's The Kelley Show, and I'm Dr. Kelley Mondesire. And I've decided to share something about me at the beginning of every show. And today I'd like to share what I wear around my neck most of the time. It's a gold boxing glove. And there's a reason why I wear this glove. It's actually my glove. For those who don't know, I was a full combat Muay Thai kickboxer. And when I retired from the amateur ring, a very, very, very gifted jeweler had asked me for my glove. And she said she had a project she needed to do. And wouldn't you know, a few months later, she gave me back my glove and gave me this. So I hope to have her on the show as a guest to tell her story. She's got an amazing story to tell. But meanwhile, today on our show, I have a very, very special guest. Y'all are in for a treat. This gentleman is one of the most talented underwater photographers, and he also does time-lapse photography professionally. All of us that live on the ground, on land, you know, we see trees and fauna, flora, birds, animals, and sometimes we take all that for granted. But do any of us really know what's going on under the surface of water? And so today, you are really in for like some amazing, beautiful photography. And I have Mr. Sean Brosnan, who is known as the fish tank diver. So welcome to the show, Sean. Thank you for joining us. Can you tell me where in the world you are and what your background is, where you come from, and how did you come into the profession of photography?
Yeah, so I'm originally from New Zealand. We moved to Australia when I was about 9 years old, and then I left on a backpacking holiday that was only supposed to be 6 months. And 28 and a half years later, I find myself now living in Dublin 22 years and traveled all over Europe and all over the world. Photography, I've had a love and a passion for nearly all my life. My first kind of big camera, I suppose if you want to call it that, or SLR camera as they call it, was when I was age 15, and I've just had a love for taking photographs ever since.
Oh, there's your camera.
So that was my first underwater camera. So wow. I learned to dive in Egypt in 1998, and I bought this camera in 1999. It's a C&C film camera. Imagine that back in those days when we used to use film cameras. And it was great, except the problem with the design, you can see from that the flash is bolted to the side and pointing forward, which is okay on land, but under the water we have plankton and all sorts of tiny microorganisms living in the water. So when the flash would go off, all you would get is this white backscatter back at you. So, but thankfully technology has moved on an awful lot now, and we have all sorts of lighting and rigs and things that we could take underwater, which allow us to take proper photographs. So.
Wow. Tell me, why are you called the fish tank diver?
So I learned to dive in Egypt, and friends of mine from the UK came over at the same time. I did a course for the week, and then we did some diving together. And they like to do a lot of diving around the UK. So I did some diving with them around the UK and in the quarries and different places. But they keep trying to encourage me back to do more UK and even Irish type diving. But I keep saying, no, I prefer the warm waters. So eventually they called me the fish tank diver because I like to dive effectively in a fish tank. So it's just stuck, I guess.
And we have some photographs of actually you diving underwater. And yeah, and this is like one of my favorite photographs, this beautiful, I think you call this a clownfish, the upper left of the screen, the happy looking guy with the stripes. Can you tell us a little bit about these photographs, how you shot them, where in the world you took these photographs, and what's going on in each photo?
Absolutely. So the photo on the top left is a clownfish, or an anemone fish, they call it, also known as Nemo from the movies. But that body, I guess, that it's living in is an anemone, which has tentacles and they're sticky. So the fish and the anemone actually work together and have a symbiotic relationship, and that the anemone lets the fish live in there, and then it draws other prey in and catches it, which feeds the anemone and then protects the anemone fish. So they're beautiful. And I took that about 2.5 weeks ago in Egypt. The photo on the right-hand side then is a manta ray, and I took that in the Maldives, and they are one of my favorites. So the manta rays grow up to 9 meters wide, just about the length of a bus. They weigh about 2,500 kilos, and they're harmless. And they will literally come right in above you and touch your head if you just stay still and you're calm, and they sense that you're calm with them. They'll come in and they'll literally brush right across your head like a butterfly touching you. They're absolutely incredible.
Are those eyeballs on either side of what it looks like? Maybe, I don't know, the head? Or?
That's right. Yes. So you can see one eyeball, and there's a lobe. I can't remember the exact name now, but the front sort of like flippers, they're a particular lobe, and you can see on either side. So the gap between the eyes, where the mouth is typically between about 1 and 2 meters wide.
Wow. And
they open their mouths and they swim through the water, and they filter the plankton out of the water, and that's how they feed, is on the plankton. So when they communicate with us with those lobes, and they literally, they love interacting with people. They'll come in nice and close, and they're enormous, but they're absolutely beautiful and harmless.
Wow, I didn't know that. And is that really thin tail, is that like a rudder for them to steer?
No, that's sort of a protective device, I guess, for anything that any prey, I guess, that tries to threaten them. So it's effectively like a stinger, but they wouldn't use that against people.
Oh, so they're different from a stingray, or are they the same thing as a stingray?
Similar family, but they're different. So a stingray tend to lay in the sand and cover themselves in the sand. And there's sometimes when you hear occasionally where people have not been attacked, that's the wrong word, but have come into difficulty with stingrays. Is usually the stingray is under the sand, somebody swims over them, and suddenly the stingray feels threatened, and so they stick their barb up. But the manta rays are all part of that ray family, but they don't use that as a sting. As that they've got to constantly be swimming. They can't settle on the sand like a stingray does. So they're harmless.
And speaking of camouflage, we have some photographs of amazing animals. You photographed, I think one was a scorpion fish, and yeah, there we go. This is cut. Garrett, we're going to go to the scorpion fish, the stonefish, the other photograph. Oh, shoot. That's my fault. Oh, I'm so sorry. No, you know what? You're right. Oh, my bad. Yep. So I'll pick it up with, speaking of camouflage. What? I think I have it in front of me. I have it in front of me. I'm reading off it, and I skipped that question like an idiot.
Guys, don't worry. This is going to look beautiful by the time I finish with it. Don't you worry, Sean. You're sounding great. The timbre is sounding great. Don't you worry. It's all good.
So since he's been talking about camouflage, can we just switch the photos? Instead of showing the sharks first, we show the the scorpion fish, the stonefish.
Okay, you have to give me 2 ticks. I need to amend the slides at the back end. Bear with.
Okay.
I'll just literally get it done. I'll get it done now. Don't you worry.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
See, Sean, this is why we're not going hot.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, look, it takes time, doesn't it? You know, it just
this is on me.
When do you want talk about the sharks?
Sean is gonna talk about the camouflage guys and the camouflage animals, and then I'm gonna say how brave he is because he has special relationships with predators such as sharks, eels, and other types of animals, and that's when we cut to this photograph, this montage.
Yeah, but the thing is, okay, so I've moved that there. So at the moment, let me just show you what I got. Hang on, I'm gonna have to kick this out and start it again.
I am so sorry. That's my fault.
It's
bad.
It's so not a problem. It's so not a problem. Let me just quickly. Sorry, I've got to reauthorize it. Back in again. Continue. Come on, machine. You can do it. Yes, there it is. Sorry about this, Sean. Don't worry.
Oh, no problem. Do you want me to show you? I know we talked about it, but I don't know if we'll have time. Do you want me to show you the camera that I now use?
We could do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got it like this.
Yeah.
So,
professional camera.
So
there.
Yes.
To there, and then to sharks.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So I'm on my queue at the moment. It says question 2 is that the clownfish manta ray. Question 3, relationship with predators. You want to push that down to question 5, I guess.
No, we're just going to switch question 3 with question 4.
Okay, we can do that. Hang on.
And Sean, yes, if you want to talk about, show us that camera at some point, that's great. Yeah.
Okay.
But remember, if
I want to more importantly showcase your work.
Yes. If you're going to showcase the camera, then we need to be in this format so that we can actually see it clearly. I won't be there, obviously.
Let's leave it then. Yeah, we won't. It doesn't really matter. It just sometimes it fascinates people because they presume by the photos that I'm using a big camera, but it's not about big. It's about how you use it. But it is.
Yeah, I mean, you can mention it. You know, let's just go through. Make sure we go through the photos.
Sean, I think that adage works in all facets of life.
Yeah. Well, never mind. Okay, so I'm going to pick it up.
I'm out of here.
I'm going to pick it up where I say, speaking of camouflage, you have some amazing photographs of animals that hide in the environment for protection. And can you tell us like who these guys are?
Yep. Okay. Perfect. Yep.
Okay. Yes, sir. I'm ready. So Sean, speaking of camouflage, because this is really exciting, you have taken amazing photographs, and we're going to stay on this montage right here because these animals, and I guess it's okay to call them animals or fish. You know, you correct me because I don't know, and you're here to educate everyone here today. Can you tell us about these living things, fish, animals? Educate the audience. Who are they? What are they doing? And what's going on here in these photographs? And where were these taken, please?
Yes, absolutely. So these are scorpion fish, and they are animals as well. So they tend to live anywhere around the coral reefs, and they hide. So they camouflage themselves. And you'll see in the photo on the top left that it's changed its color to that sort of light white pinky color to blend into its surrounding. And in the bottom right-hand side, you can see the full colors where it's actually blending more into the colors of the reef.
Wow.
And what you've also got to remember here is that you don't see those colors underwater. So as we go deeper underwater, we lose light and we lose color. So if you look into the background of the photo on the right-hand side, you can see where we've lost color, and it's sort of that blue, sort of greeny hue. That's what you see until you put light on it, either through using a torch or a flash strobe that we would use underwater. And then we see the colors of the scorpionfish revealed. So these fish are poisonous. You don't want to touch them. They're very, very dangerous. And they lie incredibly still and wait for prey to go above them, and then they grab them. So that's how they survive.
Sneaky. And then we have another photograph. Gareth, if you could put that one up. What's going on here? Who are these guys?
Yeah, so these are stonefish that are also poisonous, and these, I believe, are actually one of, if not the most dangerous fish in the sea because of the poison that they have. And they lie incredibly still, and the same thing, they wait for their prey to come across, and then they open their mouth and grab very quickly to suck them in.
Jeez.
So, but they're masters of camouflage. So you see on the left in that sandy bottom, and that one actually is taken at about 7, maybe 8 meters underwater in Egypt. And the one on the right-hand side is taken on the side of a wreck that's about 30 meters underwater in the Maldives. Wow. And you can see they completely changed their color, and it's actually incredibly difficult to make out where the fish is. But it's just you see on the very right-hand side, you can see the coral, and then just to the left of that, you can see going up the frame, you can actually see the stonefish lying in wait for its prey to go across. So they always tell us underwater you never touch anything, and this is one of the very good reasons why you never touch, because you never know what you're actually potentially touching. And
is this an octopus we're looking at now?
That's right. Yep. So all 3 photos are of octopuses. The one on the top left and the top right is the same octopus, but you can see how they've blended and changed the camouflage as it's moved across the reef. Wow. So then the octopus love communicating with people. And then in the middle, you see that's actually a tiny little baby octopus, which is smaller than the palm of your hand.
And how do they communicate with people?
So they usually use their tentacles. They reach out and they'll touch you. They might sometimes touch the camera. And once they're comfortable and realize that you're not a threat, then they will generally come closer. And the more you go back and the more you visit the same octopus, they start to become, they start to recognize you, I guess, and become more friendly and start to communicate more with you. They're absolutely incredible animals.
Wow. Who knew? Wow. That's amazing. And they're the nice guys, I suppose, but, I know you have taken some amazing photographs of sharks, and I don't know about everybody else out there, but after I saw Jaws, I think it was about 12 or 13 years old. Oh, I'm showing my age, but I was terrified of the deep. And you have a different relationship with sharks. And this is a photograph of you. Now, where was this? Was this also under the ocean in Egypt, or where was that?
Yeah, so different places again. So the top left are white-tip reef sharks, and that was taken in Egypt. The one in the middle at the bottom, that's a nurse shark, and that was taken in the Maldives. And then the one on the right-hand side is somebody else actually took a photo of me. And what's really interesting there actually is that you could see my legs are crossed. Yeah, I don't even realize I'm doing that. So if you imagine when you're on land and we take photographs, we just stand still, and we're able to because of gravity. When you're under the water, everything's moving. Yourself, the water, the fish. So sometimes you've got to steady yourself or balance yourself to try and get that what do you call it, the steadiness, I guess, to take photograph. But I love diving with sharks. They get such a bad rap. And they're very, very curious animals. They're generally very friendly animals. They're curious about the noise. They're curious of what we're up to. They want to come in and check us out. They really don't want to bite us. They don't want to attack us. It does happen, but you really have more chance of, I think, of being bitten by a human than you have by a shark. But like any animal, they also give you warning signals. And if they're having a bad day, or if they're in a feeding zone, or if they're mating or anything like that, they will give you signals. They use their fins to give you signals and warnings, and you tend to just go away. Then you back off and you leave them alone. They're incredible animals.
Wow, there's so much to learn. I think that's phenomenal that you're just down there and you're swimming with the sharks. And I don't know, has anybody ever called you the shark whisperer?
No, not at all. But it's another world, Kelley. Honestly, it's when you drop into the water, there is nothing else in the world that actually completely disconnects me from the world, from technology, our mobile phones, and everything that we do. The second that I drop into the water, everything is different. Our feelings, sounds, senses is completely different. How we communicate with each other. You can't talk underwater unless you use fancy gear, but generally you can't. So it just is a magical world, a little bit like imagining what it would be like going into space, I would say.
Wow. And Sean, your work is just magnificent, absolutely magnificent. And talking about underwater, the environment, it's a different world. We have a photograph of live coral next to dead coral. And Sean, when we first spoke before, you agreed to come on to the show, which thank you so much. This is like amazing, just amazing. I asked you, what is the purpose of coral? And, I never thought of coral as being like the trees or the grass or the bushes or the flowers of the sea. So can you please explain what's going on in these two photos, and why, when we hear and read about the coral reef dying and how devastating it is to the planet, that the coral is being bleached? Can you tell us what that means and what's going on in these two photos, please?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really devastating in ways to see that photo on the left where it's all bleached white, the coral. Everything in the ocean has a purpose. Everything feeds off each other, and it's like a circular environment down there. And the coral plays a really, really important part in regulating the ocean and feeding other species under the ocean. And essentially what's happening here is the water temperatures that are rising trick the coral into thinking that it's a different time and season. And what the coral tend to do is they release algae, which is part of that symbiotic relationship and ecosystem under the water. But because the rising temperature, it fools it, and it actually lets all of the algae go. And then that's what bleaches it and turns it white. So initially it's not dead, but it is dying. And if the temperatures don't reduce, well, then the coral will actually die. There is a chance that it can recover. But if you see on the photo on the right-hand side, the color that it should look, you'll see just the tips of it are white. And that's what we should really see, where a little bit of it is going white, but it actually has an opportunity to regenerate itself.
Wow.
And I'm just back from Egypt only 2 weeks ago, and the water temperatures where I was were between 32 and 34 degrees every day. And the highest recorded temperature was 37 degrees underwater.
That's
I'm
nuts.
not a biologist or anything, but my understanding is once you go over 30 degrees, that's centigrade. Once you go over 30, you're in real trouble. And this is what's happening. The difference between going to the same place a year ago and now, it's having a devastating effect. And then you have obviously the likes of commercial fishing, which is a real difficult challenge because we all like fish and we want to eat fish. There's a whole industry there. But, it's estimated that somewhere in the region of about 720,000 seabirds, about 300,000 marine mammals, which are dolphins, whales, 345,000 seals, sea lions, and about 250,000 turtles are being killed every year through large-scale fishing nets. And then even worse, when they break free or get jammed, they just cut them and let them loose into the ocean, and they then fall over the top of a coral reef, stop the light coming through, and then that causes even more devastation and kills the reef again. So we have some real challenges of our hands, I think, to try and figure out some solutions for.
Wow. Well, thank you for educating me about that. You know, all of this, I really didn't know anything about it until, you know, we had talked a few weeks ago. Well, let me ask you, you talked about the Maldives and you talked about Egypt. Where else in the world have you dived? Where have you been?
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate to travel to 70 countries around the world. I haven't dived in all of them just yet, but I have dived in New Zealand, several parts of Australia, Thailand, Egypt, obviously the Maldives. God, where else? Some parts of Europe. I've been to Gibraltar, Crete, Spain, Gozo. So I've been to quite a few, but there's so many more. I mean, I've been very, very fortunate. I've gone back to the Maldives 13 times. So I do what they call a liveaboard. So you live on a boat and you continuously dive for generally a week or 2 weeks. And I love the manta rays and the sharks and what the Maldives have to offer. But I need to move further afield and see some more.
So what is your day job? How do you fund all these wonderful adventures?
Yeah, so my day job is a commercial photographer. I wasn't always a photographer. I worked in operations and change management. And then about 14 years ago, I started a commercial photography business. Now I'm really focusing on time-lapse photography, as you mentioned, and especially now with AI-driven technology and everything that's built in. But my passion, I love underwater photography. And if I could find a way to turn that into my full-time income, I'd be a very happy man. But for now, I enjoy the diving as holidays.
And Sean, you know, can you hold up the camera that you actually use underwater to take these magnificent pieces of art? I mean, look at that. It looks like the size of one of those old-fashioned disposable Kodak throwaway cameras, doesn't it?
And if I hold up, that's my professional camera that I use commercially, and then that's my underwater photography camera. So it's really not about the camera that you use, it's about the techniques and how you learn to use lighting and everything else that really makes the difference. And more than using your phones, you know. So
size really doesn't matter when you're under the water.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So have you exhibited your work? Any thoughts on exhibiting your work?
I'd love to put an exhibition together. I mean, I've been diving since 1998, and I've been taking photos underwater since 1999. And I probably have only been taking proper photos underwater for maybe the last 10 or 15 years. It takes a long time to learn, and certainly in the old days of film, underwater photography. But I would love to exhibit my work. I've only in the last 12 months, believe it or not, actually started to share my work. So, and no particular reason, I guess I just was so busy taking photos, I never got around to actually doing anything with them. So I've started sharing them on Instagram, and I'd like at some point potentially to write a book about the underwater world and display some of my work. And naturally having an exhibition would be pretty incredible to see.
Well, I want to go to that exhibition. I want an autographed copy of the book, but we're a little tight on time now. Sean, the question of the day, if you could name a person, place, thing, or experience that you're grateful or thankful for, what would it be?
Yeah, there was a really interesting question. I think there's so many things that I'm grateful for in life, but I think the experience that I'm very, very grateful for. So myself and 4 friends cycled from one end of Ireland to the other, 765 kilometers in 7 days.
Wow. I think we have a photograph of that, don't we? There's the game. Right. Wow.
Yeah, that was at Malin Head. So from Mizzen Head to Malin Head, it's a very well-known cycle in Ireland. You can go up through the middle at about 500 kilometers, or you can go out there, effectively the Wild Atlantic Way, and that was 765 kilometers. 2 of the guys there had never cycled a bike before, and I've some physical challenges with my back and so forth. So to be able to achieve that and do that together, the camaraderie, the fun, the scenery, I mean, it was absolutely incredible.
Wow. Well, Sean, thanks for being a guest on the show. Thank you for sharing all your amazing work. If anyone would like to reach out to Sean, hey, he could use an exhibit or a time lapse, whatever. We've got his contact information up here. Do reach out to Sean. And thank you once again, Sean. Thanks to our viewers today. I hope you learned something. And if you would like to be on The Kelley Show, do email us with your contact information, your name, where in the world you are, your email address, and what your story is in a few sentences, but more importantly, why you want to be on the show and share your story. So don't touch that dial. Next week, stay tuned. An amazing guest going to be on and share their amazing story. So for now, peace and love. Garrett, take it away.
If you would like to be a guest on The Kelley Show, send us an email with your contact information, where in the world you are, and a brief description of the story you'd like to share today.